Good morning and welcome to Art Online. This week we're going into the greenhouse.
I love old greenhouses. Our inspiration comes from a couple of images from Unsplash. And I start with a quick rough sketch just to get an idea of how I want to approach the subject.
To begin my painting, I mix up a puddle of paint for the blue sky. I test the paint colour on a little scrap of paper. Then I wet my brush, I load it with the paint, and I paint in the sky. And now I have to wait and let it dry for a few minutes. And don't worry if you have a bloom here, as I do, because you're going to be painting over it. So I'm going to just test it with my finger to make sure it's dry before continuing. Just to give it a little bit more time to dry, I'm going to paint in a couple of terracotta pots while I wait. And I'm going to paint the pathway through the greenhouse and the little green door at the end. If you think your background's dry, you can start to paint in some of the plants. And I'm going to make this a fern house rather than a palm house.
I'm using my favourite green, which is 51, with a touch of lemon yellow 40.
So the ground area is still a little bit wet, so I'm going to put in a couple of hanging baskets of ferns. We'll change up the foliage a little bit and add just the suggestion of a tree over here.
And some more of that lovely lemony yellow green. I'm going to add a nice dark fern in the foreground.
At this stage, everything is a bit wet, so I'm going to step back and let it dry for a moment. We'll now start to add a little bit more foliage.
Again, I'm using my favourite green, which is number 51. It's a lovely bright spring green. For contrast, we'll add some nice small leaves over here.
We'll tuck in another terracotta pot just here, a little smaller. And maybe another one in the back to give us a sense of recession. Just for a change, we're going to make some long, thin leaves now. I want to give the sense of really luxuriant thickness, so I'm going to add in some dark green to push the door back and to create some interesting negative space in the foliage that I've already painted. So it takes a little bit of time to build up this lovely pattern of foliage in the foreground, but it's definitely worth spending time just and filling in and creating these nice leaf patterns. We'll put a tiny bit of pattern on some of these terracotta pots. And now the moment we've been waiting for, you take your PH Martins and you start to put in the pattern of the greenhouse. And I'm just filling in with a nice pattern. So here you have your beautiful, inviting greenhouse. So I think greenhouses are magical spaces and I love painting their exteriors. I love painting their interiors. So I hope you have fun with this project.